Today we have yet another RS3 with the same 2.5 5-cylinder engine, and we have a RPM limitation on the dash and a couple fault codes regarding incorrect correlation between the camshafts and crankshaft. So as you can see, Thomas has already diagnosed this car on his channel. I don't know if the video is live yet, but if it is, I'll leave a link in the description so that you can have a look. I think he's already tried to swap the solenoids that control the exhaust and intake camshaft adjusters, but that didn't solve any problems. So the only possible thing that could have happened is the timing must have jumped, most likely on the intake camshaft, because we have had this kind of fault code before on these 5-cylinder engines. And one thing to mention, this car has driven 128,000 miles or something like that. So it's a pretty high mileage RS3. The plan for today is to obviously get down to the timing chains and replace them. And to be able to do that, we need to take the airbox off, the gearbox needs to come off, but before we can take the gearbox off, we need to take the subframe off. The transfer box needs to come out the way as well. So yeah, quite a lot of work. But before we can start, we need to first get it back into the garage and get it on the ramp. Have a service hole. So we have a bit of a oil leak, probably from the sump. So I have to take the subframe off, so we've got to take the suspension arms off from the ball joints. We've got to separate the drop link from the anti-roll bar. We have a gearbox mount, and then we can unbolt the steering rack away from the subframe and drop the subframe down. Oily. Okay. What's going on here? Okay. Next thing will be, we need to take the transfer box off, but first we're going to take the drive shafts out. So now that both drive shafts are out, we can move on to removing the transfer box. I've already popped off the prop shaft. All I need to do is remove some of these heat shields around, these mounting brackets, and there's 1 bolt, 2 bolt, and 2 more bolts at the top as well. There we go. There you go. Just like that. So the only thing left to do is to unbolt the gearbox mount. I've also removed the intake manifold, the flap, the intake valves aren't too bad for 130,000 miles. They're a little bit dirty. We'll let the customer know. You can't really see because you can't really see, but they're a little bit dirty. The gearbox is off. Now I've still got to take the flywheel off. Vacuum pump needs to come off. This coolant pipe is in the way. And then we can remove the rear timing covers and we can have a look if there's any broken guides or anything. So we have a small leak. Engine oil is leaking past the rear main seal, but that's not too much of a big deal because that's getting replaced anyway. So that's part of the job. But now I can remove the vacuum pump and get this coolant pipe out of the way somehow. It looks like it bolts just there, and I should be able to swing it across. I have a broken guide up there. So next step, we need to take this plug out to lock the crankshaft, and then we need to go back up to lock the camshafts as well, and I'll show you how to time everything up. intake camshaft is out a little bit. So as you can see, the exhaust camshaft adjuster is lining up in between the notches on the top of the camshaft carrier, but the intake is slightly out, and because it's out I wasn't able to fit the locking tool, obviously. I chose to thread the locking tool into the exhaust camshaft and then loosen the adjuster, so then that pulley basically becomes a free spinning wheel. And then I was able to remove the crankshaft locking pin, spin the engine over a little bit, lock the intake camshaft, loosen that camshaft adjuster so that it becomes a free spinning wheel, and then lock the crankshaft once again, and then everything aligned as it should. And also, one thing to mention, we didn't actually have the correct timing tools for this engine. We only had locking tools for the previous generation, which was the Daza engine, and this is, I believe, a DNWA engine code, something like that. I'm not really too familiar with these 5-cylinder engines because we don't do too many of them, to be honest. And this is the first one I was ever doing. So what I had to do is slightly modify the locking plate for the camshafts that we use on like the RS6 engines, so the 4-litre twin turbo. At the end of the day, it does the same job. It just holds the camshafts in one position so that you're able to replace the chains. But maybe if you want to do this job and you have timing tools for the Daza, then at least you know that they won't fit the new generation engine. So now both of those pulleys are free spinning. That's it. That's locked. I can remove the adjusters. I think so. Aha. Okay. Oh, there's a piece of that guide. There's that. Pull this guide off. So that's the broken guide. You can only put it in one position because this one is bigger than that one. Now I've got one chain. Okay. Got even more broken guide. That would be nice. Okay. Here is all the new stuff. We have all new genuine gaskets, guide rails. We have one new, I believe this is a exhaust adjuster. Yeah, you can just about see the X. I think we have an intake adjuster downstairs somewhere, which I have to find. We have new solenoids for the adjusters. We have new guide rails, made in Italy. I was looking at this one. For some reason this guide is made in China. Hopefully it will be a good Chinese make. It is a genuine, but it's made in China. I've loads of different gaskets, vacuum pump gasket, PCV gasket, another tensioner. This one is also made in Italy. We have all the new brackets. So the only thing left to do is put everything back on. So the reason why you need to make sure that the adjuster is in the correct position is because, as you can see on the back, there are 3 oil holes, and those holes need to align with the end of the camshaft because that's where the oil feed comes from. And if you don't arrange it in the correct position, then the adjuster won't get any oil pressure and won't function as it should. So I've got the timing chain back on. I'm not sure how much of it I was able to film because I was filming with my POV camera, if you want to call it, so I'm not sure if the camera being here you can see too much, but I'll see in the edit what's usable and what's not. But this is what I've done. So I was really worried about timing this high pressure fuel pump gear, but in the manual there's no way to lock this gear, but I did find out that with everything disconnected, all the chains off, this gear doesn't really move too much because the high pressure fuel pump is still in. I haven't removed it, so it only has a little bit of play. I'm assuming to be able to get the guide on, turn it to slack the chain, and then when you put the tensioner on, it will clock back on to take the slack up from all the way around. So I did mark it, but I don't think you need to. As long as you have this mark facing here, I think that's fine. The cam adjusters are pretty much like any other Audi, and they have that little notch, and you need to reference it onto the cylinder head. So that's sorted. So the only thing left to do is tighten those 2 bolts, and they torque to 60 Newton meters and 90 degrees for both of them. But when you tighten them, you need to hold them in the pre-tension position so that you're not leaving chain slack anywhere, and pushing the chain over to the tensioner so the tensioner can take up all the slack. So that's the only thing left to do, and then after that's tightened, we can spin the engine over a couple times, recheck the timing, make sure it's okay, and then get the rear timing covers back on. Oh yeah, spot on. Now that I've cleaned all the covers in the Aquablast machine and they look nice and clean, I can fit the 2 new gaskets onto the rear timing cover and refit everything. You guys received the new bins as well. Very important, friction washer, crankshaft trigger wheel, and another friction washer. Now we can put the flywheel back on, and very important, you need to put thread locker on the bolts because that's what seals it from leaking oil. So now the flywheel is back on, put the vacuum pump back on with the new gasket, and the only thing left to do now is put the gearbox back on. So that's it, gearbox is back in, mounted in place. Now we just got to fit some of the new gaskets, get all the cooling pipes back on, PCV back on, transfer box, subframe. And the owner has also agreed to replace the front main seal and reseal the sump as well. New front main seal is on, pulley is torqued to spec. Now all I've got to do is take the sump off, clean it all, reseal it, and then we can start putting the transfer box back in, drive shafts, and then the subframe. So the sump is off, as you can see. Anything in the pickup? I don't think so. There's a piece of guide. Hello. The sump is back on, looks nice and clean. There's a nice even bead of silicone. Now we can put the transfer box back in, pop the prop shaft back on, and get the subframe back on as well. I've got the subframe back on. It looks a little bit better than what it did before. Gearbox mounts tight as well. I've put all the drive shafts back in, all the covers. I cleaned this one in the Aqua Blast, just so it looks a little bit nicer. And now all I've got to do is connect everything back up on the top, and we can start it up and see if we fixed anything. So as you can see, there's still quite a lot of work to be done. So we've still got to put the PCV on, inlet manifold back on, all the wiring, all of these coolant hoses, starter motor for example, gear linkage. So still quite a lot of work to do, but I won't bore you, and I'll just come back when it's all finished. So we're in the RS3, it's back on the road, it's driving. We had to put a fresh MOT on it, so it's been a couple days since I finished the job. I've done 23 miles in the RS3 so far. We also have no petrol, as you can see, but there's no engine management lights, no RPM limitations or anything to be worried about on the dashboard. So all in all, I started the car on Monday and it was pretty much back together on Thursday, I believe. I'll have to check through, but I'm pretty sure it was Thursday that it was done. And then I started it, and obviously there was a coolant leak from the thermostat housing, so that delayed us a little bit as well. And then I started stripping it down on Saturday to replace the thermostat housing because we got it delivered. And then I found out that I had to remove the oil cooler housing, not oil cooler housing, but the actual oil cooler itself, to be able to remove the thermostat housing. So then I was thinking, well, I really want to get this car done. It's Saturday. It was 12 o'clock, I believe, thereabout, and we called GPS, our local branch, and they had no gaskets in stock. So I had to drive to Birmingham, which was about a 40-minute drive, just to pick up some seals so that I could finish the car on Saturday. But it's done, and there's no more coolant leaks or any oil leaks as well, because the engine was very dirty. And I think I've done a pretty good job making sure that it's all nice and clean, and it actually looks like someone has put some time and effort into doing this job. I'm not 100% sure on the total bill, but I will find out, and I'll put it somewhere on the screen. It's probably going to be quite a lot. But yeah, if you have an RS3 with a similar fault code on the dash, and if you want to book it in with us for us to have a look at it and diagnose it, then feel free. We're based in the West Midlands, in Dudley. VAG Technic, I'm sure you've heard of it, because I know a lot of people are coming from Thomas's channel, but I know there's still quite a few new people who haven't seen Thomas's channel and are watching just my channel. So I do appreciate everyone watching. I always enjoy reading all the comments and seeing what you guys think. Keep an eye out, because currently I'm also filming a timing chain job on a B6 S4, I believe. Yeah, B6 S4. So that's a 4.2 naturally aspirated engine, and that's the engine with 4 timing chains, and that's the one you usually see on memes with how overly engineered Audi can be. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.